The thumbs up emoji is good for contracts, and a cycling club gets its head around marijuana. This is the focus group.
They're all business, except when they're not. It's the Focus Group with Tim Bennett and John Nash.
Welcome to the Focus Group. John Nash here with my good friend and co-host Tim Bennett. FocusGroupRadio.com is the website you want to go to learn all about us, and also our Tuesday podcast, TFG Unbuttoned, and our partners and sponsors, including Deep Discount, which we're going to be visiting with later in the show. We got some recommendations for you. So here we are, Mr. Bennett, out of the woods from July 4th. Did you have fireworks down at the beach?
Yes, I did not
did you go watch?
No. I did other years. So it's right down the end of the street, and
You guys could have walked.
actually, I could walk. I walked one year, and that was it.
We were in the city, and we watched the Macy's fireworks. However, we realized what we were watching was a highly produced show. Like, the fireworks were real, and
Right.
but I think they had all these music acts, and they had to have been lip syncing, right? I mean,
Oh, of
you
course.
saw
It's
you
like
saw the same
It's
thing,
like
right?
the Christmas or the Macy's Christmas Day Parade.
Exactly,
which is so
exactly.
absurd.
Big commercial.
Yeah, for the fireworks I saw it on CNN. The Macy's fire, they were unbelievable. I thought they did.
They're credible. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, what are they? A mile wide, they said, and it's nonstop. I mean, the whole thing is like a finale that you would find in
Constant.
someone else's small town.
I read that a lot of municipalities are starting to switch away from fireworks in favor of drone shows. They have all those drones in synchron. They'll create, like the Queen's Jubilee, the Platinum Jubilee, I think. They had the drones that made like a corgi and then a crown. Like, I
Right.
thought it was a lot of fun, but I guess those are fraught with problems because the drones can only be up for so long because of the battery power. Sometimes they drop out the whole bit.
There was a town or somebody did that here. It might have been, maybe it was DC or something, but it was unbelievable. And I was shocked. I couldn't figure out how they did it because you would obviously have 300 or 400 of these drones that would make a picture, right?
Yeah.
And they'd have to be programmed. I was wondering
Yes.
whether it was just one program that obviously must have, I guess, synced them all, because I thought if you had 300 different people, they'd all be crashing into one another, and how would you get it done right? But yeah,
I'm
they were
assuming
pretty cool.
That GPS figures into this somehow. And I can't even imagine how you create a image and then you have to position each drone
Yeah.
precisely to convey that image to like wherever the audience point of view is. So I think it's kind of cool, actually. And the reason they were moving away from it was because every year, in fact, didn't you do a Caught Our Eye on July 4th where some was it Wisconsin, a fireworks display blew up all at once?
Well, that was San Diego when you and I were
Yeah,
traveling.
well, that was-
we laughed about that one.
Yeah.
Yeah, it all just went boom.
All at once. Happy 4th.
I love the idea of the fireworks. It goes back to your whole tactile thing and the whole artsy craftsy of it. And what they've done here in the coastal Delaware is they have it different nights. They spread it out because they share fire departments and police because of the influx of people. So they don't have them all the same time. And then we can actually see the Jersey fireworks across the bay.
Cape May?
Yeah, you can see them. Yeah, it's about 18 miles away or whatever, but you can see it across the bay and as far up, if it's clear, as far up as Atlantic City. But you really can't do that now with some of the Canadian smoke. I don't know if you're getting some of the smoke still.
We had it prior to July 4th, a second wave of it. It wasn't as bad, but the air quality was bad enough that if you didn't want to exercise in it, let's put it that way. Yeah. I was just thinking of you guys seeing fireworks all the way over in Cape May. I mean, think of that, right? And we do the same thing. Like we have a town south of us, upstate,
Right.
that does their fireworks a week after July 4th. It usually the Saturday after or something like that, and we could sit on our front porch and see them all above the trees. They go off, and I'm like, "That's our fireworks display, right?"
Yeah. No, the good thing is I did have my hamburger and hot dog. So
Bob was wondering if you had
I
it.
talked
or not,
about.
'cause he
Yes,
heard
I
the
was
show,
delighted.
yeah.
Matt had come down, and I had convinced him to cook. And Mark and Carl came over, and we had hamburgers and hot dogs and potato chips. And so I had my hamburger and hot dog, which I was delighted to have.
You were pleased.
I was pleased. Well, because we don't do that much. So I was excited to have it. I love a hot dog on the grill.
What kind did you buy? What did Matt buy? Do you know the brand? Like Ballpark Franks?
I was going to say they were ballpark. I like to buy the ones from Costco, the long ones, and they actually the ones that they sell at for $1.50 with a drink at the counter. You can actually buy those. Now I can never seem to cook them to replicate them to taste the way because they steam them. Mm-hmm. And there was a guy one time at the boathouse told me that how he makes them is he puts a layer of sauerkraut in the bottom of a pot, and with the water adds a little water, and then puts the hot dogs on top of them and steams them, and that's how he makes them. And
you think that gives the flavor?
They're pretty darn good. You know, like if you got a hot dog at a ballpark or you get something off the cart in New York, it has a different mix because it's in that water all day.
Well,
but
you took the words out of my mouth. I'm like, you're talking about the dirty water that hot dogs are made in, right? So,
which, pretty darn good in my opinion. But
so, folks, the way the show works, if you're new to the focus group, welcome. By all means, follow us, and that means you'll get our show in your podcast feed of choice. It could be Spotify, Pandora, it could be wherever you want. We catch up a little bit. It was just done. We have a segment called Caught Our Eye. We bring news stories to each other's attention, usually different, very different for Tim and me, or Tim and I, sorry. And then we visit with our partner, Deep Discount, take a quick break, and we do a business birthday, the only show in the universe that does this, by the way, and we have a shop talk. So without further ado, Mr. Bennett, what caught your eye?
What caught your eye? Here's what Tim and John found.
So you teased this in the opening about emoji, and
I love this.
So this story had popped up, and I had to read it a couple times to figure it out. And I wondered, I'm sure a lot of our listeners out there have done similar things, and I've used this same emoji. But in this case, this was a court case out of Canada in Saskatchewan. And there was a grain buyer, or a flax buyer, a farmer, and he approached another farmer named Chris Atcher to purchase 87 metric tons of flax. And so the first farmer, I'll call him Kent because he's got a long last name. So Kent approached the farmer to purchase 87 metric tons. Kent signed the contract for the sale and sent a photo back to Atcher, who replied back with a thumbs up emoji. And so we all know what those are, with the emojis with the thumbs up. And if you're watching on our video, you'll see there's a number of them there with a thumbs up. And so what has happened is the one farmer said that, well, I didn't confirm that I was going to buy it, buy the flax. So they said, so Atcher, the guy who sent the thumbs up, says he argued that the emoji was simply to confirm the receipt of the contract. While Kent argued that no, it was confirmation that he was entering into an agreement as the buyer. And so he said, I sent the contract and along with the picture, and he sent back this thumbs up emoji. And they're saying this has now turned into this thumbs up emoji has turned into a non-traditional means to sign a document. And they said in these circumstances, the judge also agreed that this was also the equivalent of a signature that he agreed. Okay. So Chris said, as I have found, he went on to say that they went back and forth. But the judge's ruling was that in fact this was, although it's new, that this use of the emoji actually did constitute an agreement. And it says the case is setting a new standard that's changing the linguistic role of emojis in official communication. And this is what the one attorney warned and said, you're going down a slippery slope here and you're going to open the floodgates by saying that this emoji is the equivalent of a signature. And the justice, however, said he remains steadfast that the court cannot stand in the way of the changing tides of how we use technology. He says this appears to be a new reality in Canadian society, and courts will have to be ready to meet the new challenges as they arise for the use of emojis and the like. So my guess is it's a matter of time. If it hasn't happened already, this will happen in the U.S. Now, I use the up thumbs emoji, but it's usually like you'll send me a note and say, hey, I'm going to call you at 3:00.
Boom. Thumbs up.
And I'll do a thumbs up, right?
Yeah.
I don't know about this one. If I said to you, John, I'd like to buy... John, I talked to somebody and although I could see where this could happen. John, I've talked to... because you and I were getting insurance at one point, and said, I talked to 2 insurance agents, and I'm going to go with the one that
Had the umbrella rider.
had the
or
umbrella
something like
rider,
that,
and
yeah.
it was $800.
Yeah.
And then you sent back a thumbs up. Now, to me, that would be like you're okay with it.
That's exactly what it means.
Now, with
yeah.
what this farmer was saying, no, I was just acknowledging that I got the email. What happened is he didn't want to he didn't want to buy. He found the flax, when you dig into it a little more, he found it cheaper somewhere else. So he was trying to unwind this thing.
Get out of it. He's trying to get out of it.
But but you could see where that would happen. If I sent you a note and you came back and sent me a thumbs up, I would say you're either in agreement with something, or you gave me the go ahead, and vice versa. Is that how you use it as well?
Exactly. I use it exactly. It's a confirmation. It's basically like, yep, I'm confirming what you just said. So I'm not sure that the judge reached the incorrect decision. I'm not sure he's opening the floodgates for emojis being used in all kind of contractual issues moving forward. But
The wink,
yeah, exactly.
the kiss.
Yeah.
That'll be sexual harassment, right? Would the kiss be a sexual harassment? Send somebody
Yeah.
to kiss and a wink. So so that was that caught my eye. So we'll see if it. I'm guessing we're so litigious. I'm surprised that we haven't run into this yet. But,
True. You're right about that.
So what caught your eye?
Mine was different. The headline reads: Joint Smoking Cycling Group, Bike Buds,
Bike buds. I like that.
plots its course for growth. So it's two guys in Richmond. I think it's Richmond, Virginia. They start a club, and it's Richmond. I was right. Eric Morehouse is one of the guys, and he met up with this other guy. And I think Morehouse also is married. The other gentleman's name is Horn. I can't see his first name though. Here it is in a nutshell. These two guys are cycling buffs. They love to cycle. And they feel that when there's a cycling club, the clubs either ride like really kind of casual, slow, like it's a relaxing time you're talking to friends, or it's the high tempo. We're going to ride 40 miles tonight. And we want there's A group, B group, C group. Now, put this in perspective. I used to cycle with groups, and I'm the B kind of guy, like A group, B group, C group. You're going to go like 17 miles an hour, 18 miles, 14. They want a happy medium, and so they created Bike Buds, and they'll take people on a 20-mile ride, and halfway through the ride, everybody stops, and they all light up joints, and they pass them around. It's very communal, according to these guys, and then they continue their ride. So I think it's kind of funny. I know a lot of cyclists who smoke, and it's not like a horrible thing. And I like the whole Bike Buds. I like the Buds idea. They have some merchandise they always sell out of, like these T-shirts that say Bike Buds. They're thinking of having the club expand. They make no money doing this, by the way. They make enough money to order new merchandise, and it pays for itself. My only thought on this is, if you're going on a 20-mile bike ride, my average is 17 to 18 miles an hour. Okay, so in my world, I would ride for 35 minutes.
Right.
Have a joint, and then ride for 35 more. I mean, I'm not sure I'm getting something out of it. I don't think the physical part is what I'm getting out of it, though.
Well, I wonder how long they stop for.
Long enough to just have a joint and pass it around.
But isn't so? It's an agricultural product, and you and I have done some work in this space, and so, it could vary from one type to another, right? So I wonder, could you have something that would knock you on your ass and you wouldn't be able to ride the bike back?
Yeah, so that's a great question, and the answer would be yes. Like, it depends on how much of it you take in. If you're smoking it as a joint, for example, it could be a variety, as you just literally smartly mentioned, that you might not have had experience with. For example, sativa is thought to be the one that is party happy, and indica makes you want to just fall into your couch and binge watch TV. Those are gross representations of the two strains, but they're not that inaccurate. And I can see if you're being physical on a bike, whatever. And I don't know.
I'm surprised they didn't do the bike ride and then come back and smoke the joint. Like do your workout and then come back. And when I used to row out of Oregon, there was a group of us that would do the row in the morning. We would either go for coffee, or if it was on a weekend and a little later, we would go out and get some beers or something. And and then have camaraderie talk, and
You nailed it exactly, Tim. Every bike group I've ever ridden with, it was the ride. Someone would bring a cooler,
right?
And people would bring like a 6-pack, and they'd put it in the cooler, and during the ride it would get cool. And when you got back to the parking lot, it was usually in the back of someone's pickup truck or an SUV. Everybody put their bikes on their cars and maybe changed out of some of their clothing and hung around, had a beer or two, and caught up, and then it drove away.
Right.
It wasn't something you did mid-ride.
Yeah. I think it's interesting, I guess. But I like the name of it as you did, Bike Buds. The kind of an odd couple standing there. If you were watching on the video, didn't you think the one on the left to me looks more like a cyclist. The guy on the right looks like some kind of pervy uncle.
Do you think it's the black sunglasses he's wearing?
Well, the socks are hiked up. There's just something about it. Just
by the way,
doesn't look too cycly to me.
Total non sequitur, Tim. You do know that the way he's wearing his socks on the right, which are pulled up, is the way everybody wears them.
Oh,
at the gym and stuff.
Yeah, he's also showing
I remember
some
when I
package,
first started
too,
working out. Yeah, I remember my first trainer literally went and pushed my socks down to my ankles. He's like, you don't pull them up. Styles change, right? But you are right.
But now that's why, they're wearing them like that now, which I still don't do.
I still think for the guy that you're talking about on the right-hand side, if you're watching, he's practically wearing those wraparound vision glasses they give you after you have glaucoma surgery or something.
Or he's going to weld something. He's going to weld his bike.
He's going to have the mask come down. He's going to be welding. Yeah, you're right about that. Yeah, so see, folks, caught your eye is always very different. We got the thumbs up emoji with contractual law in Canada. It's about time we start using those emojis in contracts.
Oh, no, that's a yes. You own for the flax.
Yeah, we love Canada. And then you get the Bike Buzz down in Richmond, Virginia. So as many of you know, Deep Discount is a partner of ours here on the Focus Group, and we'd love you to start shopping at their site by going to ours, and that's focusgroupradio.com. Click on the Deep Discount logo, which is actually Sharky the Shark. There used to be a lot more Sharky in the show. We got some pushback from Sharky. But anyway.
I like Sharky.
Sharky is great. So favorite sale of mine is because I just love going down memory lane. Summer Blockbuster Sale. And like every summer, there's at least 2 or 3 movies that are just the movies that everybody has to see and they're all talking about, which is the movies that end up in the Summer Blockbuster Sale. Great pricing already. So, Tim, what did you pick for a summer blockbuster?
So I went through the list a couple of times on the website at Deep Discount, and I came up with a movie. I think you and I might have seen this together with Leaf and a few other people. Mary, maybe. Purple Rain. With Prince, and I could see and I do remember me kicking and screaming going to it because I was not necessarily a huge fan of Prince, but ended up really liking the movie. And so it had been released in 2016. Its original year is 1984, and it's a semi-autobiographical movie about Prince, the musician, of course. It's available on Blu-ray for $7.36, so you can't miss it. Had Morris, Apollonia was in there.
Morris O'Day, right?
Morris O'Day, and songs like "Let's Go Crazy," "When Doves Cry," "I Would Die for You," "Purple Rain," "Baby I'm a Star," a number of other tunes. And then so I was poking around. There was some other facts about the movie. Originally, it was going to be called Dreams.
Really?
And
really? Okay.
Yeah, it was supposed to be called Dreams, and then when it got finished, they thought, it's not really going to work. Jennifer Beals actually turned down the role of playing Apollonia because they said she opted to go to Yale rather than do the movie.
Not a bad call, depending on how you look at it, right?
To Yale, right. The club in Minnesota, the First Avenue and 7th Street Club, they ended up paying $100,000 for closing it for the 25 days where they did the
25 days of filming at the club, huh?
Yeah, well, they closed it for 25 days and gave the club $100,000. The one thing, Prince insisted that Apollonia was dating David Lee Roth. And he said one of the conditions for her to be in the movie is she needed to be single. She had to break up with him because he didn't want publicity in the movie. It was supposed to be, she was with him, and they didn't want it. He wanted to have it more true to life, I guess. Mm-hmm. And when the movie finally came out, Warner Brothers felt they had a real dud. They were not happy with it. They were going to put it in very few theaters. But they did a secret screening, and Rolling Stone, the Los Angeles Times, and Newsweek gave it glowing reviews. So Warner Brothers decided to put it as a nationwide release. It only cost them $7 million to do the movie. That was the budget. And it made about $69 million at the box office. So it was a pretty good deal for them.
Tim, I love the R&D you did on this, and I do believe you're correct. While you were talking about the origins of the movie, I have actually, it's a very strong memory of seeing it in Newtown.
Yeah.
The Newtown Cinema. And I think it was, in fact, it was a college break. We might have been home from college.
Yep. Probably
Excellent pick.
Summer. Yeah.
It's a summer. Yeah, it's a great summer movie. I went in a slightly different direction. I am a big James Bond fan.
Yes.
And the very first Bond movie I ever saw in the movie theater was The Spy Who Loved Me with Roger Moore. And the song that summer was Nobody Does It Better. That was the song.
Carly
from Spy Who
Simon.
Loved Me. So Skyfall featured Adele. She did the theme song to Skyfall. And when that song came out, a lot of radio DJs were like, we've got a proper Bond summer song. So right off the bat, I was in love with the song. And I happen to like the movie a great deal. Dame Judi Dench, Daniel Craig, who plays Javier Bardem plays the nasty guy who used to be in 07 or one of the agents. It's a good setup. It's a good movie. It's a little, I think it was over 2 hours and 40 minutes, I recall. But I remember leaving the theater thinking, this is James Bond.
Yeah.
Not quite as campy as Roger Moore movies. You know what I'm talking about. But there you go. So I picked Skyfall.
And perfect music, as you mentioned. I mean, what fun. Those...
Tim, this goes back. So this was released in 2012. And we were still, we were still on Sirius Satellite Radio, right?
Yeah.
And Larry Flick announced on his show one morning that he goes, ladies and gentlemen, we have the perfect Bond song. And he played Adele's Skyfall.
And it had that, you knew immediately what it was, right? You knew it was a Bond
exactly.
That's why I thought for the first time in a long time of going to the movie theater to see the new Indiana Jones movie. Have you heard anything about it?
The Dial of Destiny. It's gotten mixed reviews.
Has it?
A friend of mine saw it, loved it. Okay. A critic said, "Oh my God, it's bombing." So I'd like to see it though. And it's Indiana Jones is kind of a summer movie, right?
Yeah, typical of this. So what was the new release this week?
The new release is a movie called Book Club: The Next Chapter. So obviously, the next chapter implies it was the book club, the first chapter, right? And this is I think it's Candice Bergen, Jane Fonda. Who am I missing anybody? I am certainly. Here we go. Let me see. Diane Keaton, right? Okay. Don Johnson's in it. I think, oh my God, Miami Vice. So Diane Keaton, Candice Bergen, Mary Steenburgen. You know who Mary Steenburgen's married to, don't you?
Ted Danson, wasn't it?
Yeah, Tim, you're very good. You get the deep discount prize today. So this follows these four women, and they go to a bachelorette party in Rome. I think one of them's going to get married. So I didn't see it when it came out. I'm probably going to see it eventually on either HBO or something like that. But if you're hankering to get it, Book Club: The Next Chapter on Blu-ray looks very good.
Book Club. So, as Mr. Nash mentioned, you can get to deep discount by heading over to focusgroupradio.com. Click on the deep discount logo, and they've have a summer blockbuster sale going on right now. So these are summer blockbuster movies, many of them up to 40% off and higher. I had picked a movie that I've only seen once and interested in seeing again, Purple Rain, which is semi-autobiographical about the singer Prince. John picked two, I guess, The Spy Who Loved Me, one he liked, and also Skyfall, and which are James Bond classic movies with great scores to them. And the new release this week is Book Club: The Next Chapter. And again, you can get all of these great picks at deep discount, along with plenty of other items while you're there searching around. So we appreciate their support of our show and appreciate you supporting them as well. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we've got a business birthday and then a little bit of shop talk, so stay with us.
You're listening to The Focus Group with Tim and John. Learn more at focusgroupradio.com. Now back to The Focus Group with Tim and John. Available pretty much everywhere.
Welcome back to the Focus Group. John Nash with Tim Bennett, focusgroupradio.com, our website. You'll learn about our partner Deep Discount we just visited with. And, of course, you'll learn about TFG Unbuttoned, our Tuesday podcast, which is 3 stories about 20 minutes long. Maybe it's the short cousin or the relation to the Focus Group. But everybody loves Unbuttoned. So
everyone does celebrity birthday greetings, but the Focus Group is the only show in the universe that celebrates business birthdays.
Drew Birdsey was pushing you along, Nash.
I triggered they call
funny.
that triggering the imaging.
Did you trigger the imaging?
So it's the business birthday imaging. There you go.
Perfect. Today's business birthday, there's really not much to say, I don't think, when you hear the name. Although his real name is Milton Teagle Simmons. We know him as Richard Simmons. Born today, July 12th in 1948. He's 75 years old. Old Richard Simmons. So you know him, of course, from Sweatin' to the Oldies, an American fitness personality and public figure known for his eccentric, flamboyant, and energetic personality. He's promoted weight loss programs most prominently with his Sweatin' to the Oldies line of aerobic videos. He began his weight loss career by opening a gym in Beverly Hills called Slimmins. He had moved out to
Clever.
He'd moved out to the LA area from Louisiana where he grew up, and he was heavy. He realized that all the gyms and clubs he would go to, or the gyms or the places to work out, fitness facilities he would go to, really catered to people who were already in shape. So he wanted to go to a place that could actually counsel him and also help you lose weight. So he opened this club called Slimmins, which they said also had a salad bar in it called Roughage. That didn't last too long. They said he got away from the food there as well, but just had it as more of a workout kind of aerobic sort of place. And he actually taught a lot of the classes. He lost 123 pounds and has kept over 100 pounds off, he said, for the last 42 years. He's kept over 100 pounds off him and constantly works out about an hour and a half a day. He was parodied an awful lot on late night TV. You can see plenty of video if you go to, particularly like Late Night with David Letterman. I watched a couple of them. A lot of people make comments that maybe they were picking on him, maybe they weren't, maybe it was part of the shtick, maybe it wasn't. But they did say he did have a falling out with David Letterman. And also had a falling out with Howard Stern. He felt that they might have kind of crossed the line with him from being kind of good fun and teasing him about his outfits and his shorty shorts and his crystal tank tops and so forth. But they said he did actually make up with both of them and kind of come back into the fold. When he was a student, he was one of the freak show characters in a Fellini movie, Satiricon.
Oh my God, are you serious?
Yeah. So
that's an interesting tidbit. Yeah.
He said it was when he reached his peak of weight at 268. His first job was selling pralines in Louisiana. So he, as I said, he stated that he kept the weight off. He's been kind of part of our culture. He's been on every sort of game show, Match Game, Price is Right, even $25,000 Pyramid, Hollywood Squares. He was on Super Password, the Battle Stars. He was the voice for Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer in the movie. The voice of Boone in Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. But on many, many shows, what's happened, however, is he decided in 2014 that he wasn't going to make any more appearances. So he was just going to stop. So he sort of disappeared. And people got very concerned. They didn't know what happened to him. It says, I'll read it so I get it correctly. Simmons has not made any major public appearances since 2014. He stopped appearing in public altogether in February of that year. In March 2016, there was lots of speculation that he was being held hostage by his housekeeper. In response, on March 2016, Simmons gave an audio interview on the Today Show denying those rumors. And then November 2016, his gyms all closed. The Slimmins fitness gyms closed without any public announcement or anything from Simmons. And they said in 2017, a podcast was formed called Missing Richard Simmons, which was investigating why Simmons left public life so suddenly. In 2017, also in March, the Los Angeles Police Department visited the home to do a welfare check. And they issued a statement saying that everything was fine, and he was just living his life the way he wanted to at this point. He's been in a couple of lawsuits. He sued the National Enquirer in 2017 because they made false claims that he was undergoing gender reassignment surgery. And he actually lost a lawsuit. The judge said, "Well, that's not something that you can sue about. There's nothing wrong with it if you had gender reassignment surgery. So that's not something that could have damaged you per se."
But it was basically a defamation claim, right?
Yeah, but he didn't win because they said that
didn't rise to the level.
No, they said misgender. It'd be like someone saying, "Well, I'm gay." There's like, well, they can say there's nothing wrong with you being gay. That's not harmful. Now, a lot of people have won with that, right? Saying, "Well, you've damaged my reputation." I think there's a couple of famous people we were never allowed to say. I think you know they are. One guy flew a plane, the other one had a talk show. Have successfully won by people questioning their sexuality, right? Mm-hmm. So they said in August 2022, there continued to be rumors about him, and there was a TMZ documentary, What Really Happened to Richard Simmons, claiming that maybe he has knee problems. And he has issued a statement since that just essentially says, "I'm happy, I'm healthy, and I'm living the life I've chosen to live." So I do wonder what happened to him. I thought maybe he gained weight. But I don't know.
When you sent this over, I was working on the PowerPoint deck, putting the graphics together, and Bob came up behind me to look at the screen, and he said, "Oh my God, it's Richard Simmons." And I said, "Yeah, this is Tim's business birthday." And we were both commenting on the background you just gave, which is everybody wondered what happened to him.
Right.
Was maybe the housekeeper had him under basically, house arrest or something. And I think it's different. I think that he often would appear in shorts and the tank top, right?
Yeah.
And I thought to myself, there's a point at which he's not going to be able to do that without looking like some kind of weird caricature of his younger self. And maybe he just decided to step off the stage and not do any of this anymore because he's not quite looking like his brand, right?
Right.
Doesn't mean he's ugly or anything, but he's aging, and maybe he just doesn't want to bother, right?
The two recent pictures I found that came up on Google, if you're watching on the video, he's in an orange tutu, and the other one he's in a red kind of.
Those are recent?
Oh, yeah. Well, they were 2014-ish.
Okay.
These are the last pictures of him in public. But he's got, a Wilma Flintstone pearl necklace on and that orange tutu thing, right? And the other one looks kind of funny. But you're exactly right. And if that is the case with him, and we all hope it is, we have no reason not to believe he's living the life he wants to live and enjoying himself, that there becomes a point where the character's over and you're just done, right? He's made millions and millions and millions of dollars off of being these, sweating to the oldies guru. The number of videos and cassette tapes and CDs and things that came out.
And he's been so in the pop culture.
Yep.
He's been parodied. He himself goes along with the fun. He's sold millions of these tapes. An example I'll give you of aging out of a role, a Star Trek example. There's an actor named Brent Spiner who plays the android Commander Data on Star Trek: The Next Generation. The android is never supposed to age, right?
Uh-oh.
So maybe about 6 or 7 years ago when they were doing one of the Star Trek movies, Brent Spiner came out and said, "I look 25 or 30 years older. The character is not supposed to age. How do you explain this to the audience?"
Right.
And it got so bad that he eventually said, "I will no longer play this character unless you can explain how he's aged."
Wow.
Because he's supposed to be ageless, right? So I don't know. I think when you rely on your when your personality and your brand relies on your appearance so heavily, as he used to game the system with the shorts and the cover you have there on the video of Sweating to the Oldies, I see no problem with him stepping away and not having to say anything. He owes nothing to no one, right? He doesn't owe an explanation.
Yeah, no, you're exactly right. I watched one of his final appearances on Letterman.
Yeah.
And David pulled a prank on him, which he handled well. He brought on this steamer he was trying to sell, and they had set it up. The thing caught on fire.
and that was
Simmons
the prank, the catching on the fire.
Well, and Simmons had no idea. He was screaming, and of course the audience went crazy. But apparently their fallout happened on a show around Thanksgiving, and Richard was dressed like a turkey and then leaned over to try to give David kind of a hug and a kiss, and he sprayed him with a fire extinguisher and ended up kind of really hurting his eyes and some breathing issues. And Simmons is like, I'm done. I'm done with this.
Wow. Okay. If that wasn't part of the shtick, then I would be pissed off too, right?
Yeah. So, but
good business birthday.
75 years old. Happy birthday, Richard.
75
Simmons.
years strong, and I hope if he listens to our show, Richard, you did your bit for King and Country. You can sit in your mansion and relax.
Hey, we've said this all the time, right?
Yeah.
Many of these stars that I guess they feed on the audience, but you made your mark. You made a lot of money. Enjoy it. Life's too short.
One of our favorites, Tim, when Johnny Carson stepped away from the microphone,
Yeah.
he stepped away for good. That was it. And he was done. And, I give that a lot of, I'm like, that's when what's that phrase? Has the fat lady sung time to get off the stage, right?
Yeah.
So, as mentioned earlier, we do have a shop talk for you. It's a conversation Tim and I are going to have, which we talk about this frequently, but the headline read, LGBTQ small business owners struggle to find financing. I'll bounce Tim off. I'll get Tim's reaction to this in a minute, but I personally found the article interesting because I think you could actually take the letters LGBTQ out of it and you'd still have the same article. Small business owners struggle to find financing. In this case, LGBTQ business owners run into issues with the type of business they own. It could be a shop or something like that, or a direct mail business or something that sells a product people might object to. But I would say, having owned several businesses myself, that financing and banking are a whole art form unto itself on some levels. And you do have to have a thought process about how you approach the creditworthiness of your business and who you would ask for money and why you would want that money to grow or to sustain the business in general. Did you have that reaction to the article, Tim, as I did?
Yeah, I did, and I went back to check again and reread because there was one paragraph in this, and you're exactly right. You could have taken the LGBTQ out of it, and it would have been the issues that small businesses have in trying to secure financing. But they had a discrepancy of about 11%. So they said that small businesses in general that apply for funding are rejected at the level of 35%. LGBTQ-owned businesses are rejected at 46%. And so there's 11% difference between LGBTQ and non. And so that was my takeaway there. And I thought, but exactly as you did, though, they gave a couple of examples of two owners. But I immediately went to, during the pandemic, there was the PPP loans, and many of us, our studio in New York closed. There was a number of things that could have helped us. We still had bills to pay and people to take care of and vendors. And we got denied, and which aggravated me because I knew bigger companies that may have had a smart CFO or somebody were getting millions of dollars. We were not asking for millions. We weren't even asking for multiple thousands. I mean, we were, comparatively. And I know other places that were able to get money, and I thought, why are we being turned down?
Well, to pick up on that for the listener, Tim was in fact furious by this, and he went a step further. Like, we had applied to a couple of organizations that provided the guidance and the approval process for a PPP loan, and Tim did what I was going to talk about this in the segment, but he did something that everybody should do. He went directly to the bank that we've been doing our checking account with for 14 years now, 14 years. And he was able to talk directly to someone who then he calls me up and he's like, I need this information, I need this corporate return, this, our statement of our articles of incorporation, a whole bunch of stuff. The loan was approved in 48 hours.
Right.
And that was the only bank that gave us the time of day, was the bank we've been banking with, right?
Right. And then for the second one, they weren't part of the second round. You and I tried to do it like everybody else. But what aggravated me is I do know people whose businesses didn't necessarily need it, that got, and I bring it up with my friend at the IRS all the time, that got a lot of money. And
they got it forgiven too.
Yeah, and I just thought it was unfair, once again, to the small businesses because, we really were in dire straits in some cases and trying to, as everyone was, trying all of a sudden, wrangle this pandemic thing. But yeah, I'm with you. The other takeaway for me is we had done some work, and gosh, I think it was.
I know where you're going
with the SBA.
I know exactly where you're going. Yeah.
Was it the SBA? So the Small Business Association made a big effort to go out to want to say to LGBTQ were open for business, right?
Yeah.
They were doing all kinds of loans and grants. And that's why, again, I was surprised here. It says business oriented explicitly toward individuals of sexual minorities and that creates sex positive spaces are also frequently excused because the SBA guidelines forbid loans for businesses of a prurient sexual nature.
Prurient, yeah.
Prurient. So I thought, well, is this in conflict with what they're sending out or telling or trying to? I think through the National Gay and Lesbian Chamber of Commerce, right?
And Tim, this goes hand in hand with an experience you and Brian Roman from AdMark 360 had.
Yeah.
Tim and Brian, our friend from AdMark 360, Brian Roman, they were in Philly, and they went to a meeting in Philadelphia to throw their hat in the ring to be part of a multicultural, or group that could be given city contracts or access to business. And, within minutes, they realized that, no, the city wasn't going to acknowledge the fact that they were a gay-owned business. They had to be one of a certain, like maybe African-American, Hispanic, Asian, whatever that might be. But that's also been a problem. That's what I thought they would dig into a little more deeply here is accreditation, like things like the National Gay, the NGLCC, National Gay Lesbian Chamber of Commerce, are useful for this exact purpose. They give your business accreditation as a gay-owned thing. Organizations that want to do business or have a mandate with diversity policies to do business with a gay organization can then use that as their entry point to reach you. But a lot of businesses don't want to bother doing that, and they're
right.
gay owned, and so
gay didn't count, and so and this was the city of Philadelphia, and we were excited because it was tried to, and I know you were going to be involved, of course, because it was to try to make Philadelphia more bicycle friendly.
That's right. That's right.
And so with Brian being based in Philadelphia, we had presence in Philly, and of course your expertise with the two-wheel market. We thought it'd be great. And the guy told us, he sat there and looked at us, you're two white guys, essentially is what he said. Yeah. And that was it. And of course, the project is a disaster in Philadelphia, which I'm happy to see.
Tim likes when the wheel turns and someone gets,
Well, how about hiring someone who's qualified?
Exactly. So I would sum up this article, or I would give you the further advice of if you are a small business owner and you do have a banking relationship with a brick and mortar bank, which I think is an important thing. And I know that staff rotates greatly, especially tellers at banks, but management tends to stick around a little longer. I've always had good relationships with our bank managers, or at least I've known who they were. And Tim, up until recently, you actually knew a human being that you could contact.
Yeah.
At the branch. It's not.
God, I went in there. I remember we were out of checks, and I went in, and they were able to give me some checks. Which you're not just going to be able to walk into any bank and do that.
So I think that's one way to finance or to find money. Another that I was taught years ago: if you have good credit and you own a business, and you might be getting these offers in the mail all the time. 0% loan from a credit card for 12 months. And you can get up to X a number of dollars, and you pay like a 3% fee for the transaction. So let's say you take out $10,000 and it might cost you $300 or something to do it, and you have this 0% loan, and you can make a loan to your business if you're LLC or sub S, and then the company will pay you back eventually, then you pay off the card, but you just got a 0% loan because you have great credit. So I think there's a couple of ways of figuring this out. But not every business owner has a head for the numbers and the money, right?
No, that's for sure.
But there are solutions, and there are ways to do stuff that make the struggle a little bit better. And I think the first one starts with having a relationship with a banker or someone who could open a door for you down the road.
Yeah. Well, so good shop talk, Mr. Nash. Thank you. So everybody, thanks for joining us today. We appreciate you joining us each week here on the Focus Group. Be sure to catch our podcast, which is TFG Unbuttoned. You'll find all of our media housed at focusgroupradio.com. While you're there, you'll also see our sponsors, including Deep Discount, which is there. They're having a summer blockbuster sale going on right now, and there's some great finds over there. I picked Purple Rain this week as my movie pick. John had picked The Spy Who Loved Me and Skyfall, two Bond movies that he had mentioned that he loved. And the new release this week is Book Club, The Next Chapter. So be sure to pick that up there as well. We want to remind you all, summer season, it's happening an awful lot. I see lots of accidents with this. Don't text and drive, arrive alive, right, Mr. Nash?
Mm-hmm.
And we'll see you next time here in the Focus Group, everyone. Have a great week.
It's the Focus Group with Tim Bennett and John Nash. Accessible on all platforms. Subscribe, like, and rate us on your platform of choice. Learn more at focusgroupradio.com.
That was a stunning focus group.